So I want to talk about something a bit different that's important, and that's grinding up materials. Grinding up materials is very important for extracting minerals and metals and stuff from raw rocks, and the better you can do it, the less good high quality ore can be, and more types of ore, so you can do it in places that hurts the environment less. It can be important to make nanomaterials for medicines, for computer chips, for pyrotechnics, for clothes, for catalysts, to make all sorts of other chemicals, such as fertilizers, plastics. It can be used to make stronger materials than normal, for batteries, and so much more. Or just to figure out what a material is. Now, there's a lot of problems with grinding material. Some of them are is that every time you grind something, you also can wear down the thing you're grinding because it wears against it. If you're trying to grind it down specifically to get very small. Another thing is it might be not grinding in all axis, or you might not get the best control. So maybe you want to speed it up in certain ways, or slow it down in certain ways, or recover some of the energy of the stuff heating the side walls. You might imagine that first you might have a rapid, slow mixing speed just to break up the initial big chunks, but then once it gets smaller, you might want to mix more rapidly as stuff is going more chaos, or change the speeds like you're cooking in the kitchen. Or that it feels at different parameters and everything, and changes one. So there's a lot of things, but one of the parameters, one of the user ways of grinding things is it's called a planetary ball mill. And this is used, not one of the user ways to grind it super small, not just grinding, but super small. And that works simply that you have one gear, one big thing turning in like this one big circular motion in one direction, let's say clockwise. And then there's a little cylinder within that thing. And that one is turning counterclockwise or in the opposite direction too. And it might be turning at different speeds. And that causes stuff to be thrown all over the place inside of it. Because when you have something turning, you have stuff is thrown in a direction that the thing is turning, and it's thrown against a wall to escape, pushed outwards. Centripetal centrifugal force. Centrifugal force, the force pushing it outwards, is actually not a real force, but that's something complicated. Now, the little thing in the jaw, sometimes it's aligning with the direction of the thing of the bigger container moving. Sometimes it's going against it. Sometimes part of it's going against it. Sometimes part of it's going different directions. It causes a different speed differential along the whole thing. It causes complete chaos, which causes the grinding. And because there's not as much solid fill material in it, the stuff grinding is kind of the only thing bouncing around grinding itself. You can just do a lot of different hardness, and there's not as much wear and tear. However, with a typical planetary ball mill, there's a couple of disadvantages. One is we're only spinning along two axes, an X, Y, like a flat plane, or YZ, or XZ. Another one is that we can't do fancy movements, like maybe sometimes it's better to shake up the whole thing to redistribute it in some ways. Shaking up in different ways can redistribute particles because heavier particles move differently than small particles when you shake them up. Small particles can change directions faster, less mass than compared to heavy ones, so they can move different, so they can separate out if you shake it up, or shaking can mix it. If you have the right shaking that you're moving the particles in different speeds and instead mixes it instead of separating it. You can't use this to shake it up and have it all fall down with gravity, which can cause even less wear, and you can't reuse those vibrations. So how would I fix this? Also, if you could do it in XYZ axis, you get less wear and tear because it's hitting one place less, and you can get less power to grind it, and you'll get more smooth grinding, and stuff gets ground in all directions, and there's even more chaos. Well, directions. Well, I propose just having something set, held by 6 cables. I didn't draw all 6 cables because again, way about draw them now. And like a cube, with each in the cube, the center, a string going out from the center of the cube to a ball. Now, in this ball, these strings can move the ball up and down and side to side, and they can replicate the motion of a planetary ball mill. And each of these strings would also have a motor that not only can move it side to side, but also turn the whole thing. And you can make it have make it move in a circle, have things twist and turn the ball so it has like the other planetary motion, and more, letting you have very complex grinding profiles. Now to save that energy from the vibration, so it's not lost as heat or just mechanical vibrations taking up the floor, you can have the strings that are opposite of each other attached to each other, so like the top and bottom, so that the vibration, so when one gets slack because of vibration, the other one gets taut, and it acts like a spring, kind of like a spring, and starts vibrating the whole thing with more energy to recapture some energy and grind it even more. And this, I think, would take our advantages out. Now, it's hard to feed it in because you have a small port and you don't have as much like a cylinder, so you have to slow it down and aim in the port. But it can grind much faster, so it might overcome those difficulties of it hard to fill in. And yes, this would be a batch thing, not a continuous thing, which might be okay if it's a lot faster and a lot better grinding, a lot less replacement parts. Another alternative way that we could do this so it's not as bad if it's grind is we could put on the surfaces, we could put something that purposely slowly corrodes, but it's easy to or wears out, but it's easy to dissolve and take and purify. Such as, imagine, this would not be the best one, but imagine spraying it with ice water if it's cold, and then it grinds away the ice, but then the ice you just melt away because it doesn't interfere with the product. Or you could coat inside with the actual product you're trying to grind beforehand, just really nicely, so if it gets any impurities, it's the actual product. With like make it a little sticky, and you stick the product on it beforehand a little bit, and that just comes off. Well, thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers in a year and 4,000 watch hours, which is really hard. With your help, I think I can do it. Also, if any of these for future videos, comments, or suggestions, please leave in the comment section below. Again, thank you very much. Goodbye.